welcome. And thank you very much to the organizers for giving us this opportunity. I would like to set the ball rolling by asking one question to both of you. And it runs broadly like this. In these times of invented histories and new discourses on culture, which are trying to replace inclusion with exclusion, how would you imagine a policy of cultural tourism when the way we have looked at culture historically is being redefined for us? And if I could begin with you, Danish, and then...
It's a very interesting question that you've asked, and a very fundamental question that you've asked. When we are living in an age where the narratives, historical, social narratives that we grew up on are kind of being replaced, and sometimes we are being fed fictitious history, sometimes we are being fed fictitious narratives, and narratives which are kind of pushing towards inclusion, towards exclusion more than inclusion. How do we create a policy which will help tourism or which will help cementing or binding people together? And I think the onus for that is both on the state and on the people. Because one cannot have one section of the society or the civil society or the government working in isolation while the rest of them are kind of happily feeding on that narrative. So it has to come from both the sides. The initiative has to come from both the sides. And I think what we need to understand that tourism is essentially an extension of the civil society. If the government of the day is interested in the governance and in the citizens of its state, then obviously it will be also interested in tourism. So one cannot look at tourism in isolation to what actual governance is. So if we are fundamentally bound to the ideas of justice, and if we are fundamentally bound to the ideas of serving every citizen, irrespective of what their caste, creed, religion, social origins are, then obviously we will also be interested in serving tourism better. That's what I think. So I think one has to fundamentally look at, are we seriously doing governance or not? Or is it just optics? And if we are doing serious governance, if we are actually ensuring that citizens are being promised and are being served what they deserve and what their rights are, then possibly tourism also will be on the right track. Thank you.
Your reaction to that?
Sir, actually, this is a serious question. And I think it is very challenging to form a cultural tourism policy when the actual things are sidelines or the actual history is sidelined and exclusive policies are in place. But actually, in Kerala, we believe in inclusiveness and we keep all the sections together. So the main thing is when we make a cultural tourism policy, that should be inclusive, and we have to preserve whatever we have. We have to preserve all our existing culture and the sections and their rituals or whatever heritage we have. That should be preserved and protected. Only thereafter we have to make a cultural tourism policy.
I would, taking this forward, I would pose one more question, which is when you are talking of a policy on tourism and a policy on cultural tourism, who do you think is a tourist? Who you're trying to reach out to? And I think among the nations of the world, India and perhaps China, Russia, but more specifically India and China, and probably some of the Latin American nations which are, or Indonesia, which are very populous, that the policies on tourism and cultural tourism that have evolved in the West do not operate in these countries. Because I don't see any possibility of tourists coming from other countries outnumbering our own tourists. So the number of people who travel from Kerala to, let's say, Kashmir, or those from Bengal who travel to Kerala or to Kashmir, can never be matched by all the tourists of the world who go to these places. So I would, the question I'm posing is, do we plan our cultural tourism policy towards the handful of foreign tourists who come, or should they be designed to introduce our own people to our cultural diversity? I think that once we crack this, then the broad contours of what our cultural tourism policy has to be would get defined on their own. And I think the experience of Kerala has shown that you develop your own cultural discourse and you are projecting it to the rest of the country. Come and see us. I don't see any other state of the country doing this. If you succeed in this, foreign tourists will also come. But we need to target our own people. How many of us have any idea of the cultural richness of Assam, or of Tripura, or of Madhya Pradesh? We go to 4 or 5 places and that's it. So unless, I think that that is what should define the broad contours of our policy towards cultural tourism. I would like both of you to react to that. Yeah.
I think, sir, you are the best person to respond to it.
You know,
Yes.
right.
Because you're actually involved with tourism
Yeah,
policy.
yeah.
Yeah, so actually, we are planning, the government of Kerala is planning to formulate a cultural tourism policy. So, I think it is the first initiative from any states of India, showcasing its cultural policy for tourism purpose. And it should be inclusive, it should be sustainable, and it should be beneficial to both the community and the visitor or the tourist. So for that, I think we have to. I have to take away with what is the deliberations going on here and to incorporate in the policy document. So for that, I think it is interdepartmental framework is needed, because the cultural tourism is spread across so many other departments like tourism department, culture department, archives, archaeology, marine and heritage, everything is there. So we have to preserve, protect and formulate such a policy so that we can showcase that cultural heritage of Kerala to the visitors. That is the main idea behind this thinking.
Ji, Danish?
Gee, I think, it's a very fair point that you've made. And I'll just say a few things. One is this, that one approach which I feel at times is very bureaucratic, which is to treat culture or various aspects of culture in a very fossilized manner, as if, this is something which is very venerable, which is to be showcased, but not treated as a living tradition, not treated something which is an everyday thing of our lives. And I think that attitude needs to change, because culture is something breathing, living every day. So it cannot be just in some state museum or in some very perfunctory programs where you have artists coming in and there are things being showcased, but it should be rather as a lived experience. So in that sense, we have few of the awardee nominees here tonight who also are practicing that kind of tourism, where they are actually not going the regular mainstream tourism, but taking people for experiences, where they actually make them experience culture as a lived experience. And when we are able to do that, then people will realize that this is something deeper, nuanced, rather than just a fossilized representation of culture in a museum or at the airport mural. That's what it is. The second thing is this, that sometimes, we can blame technology, sometimes we can also use technology. One great example is that when COVID happened, and suddenly people were forced in their homes, there was no other option for them. And suddenly, a large tract of Indian audience, they discovered regional cinema. So people were watching Malayalam films, they were watching Tamil films, they were watching, Bangla films on Netflix, on Amazon, wherever. And because these films now being available with subtitles, people suddenly woke up to an industry which is beyond the mainstream Hindi industry. Similarly, a very interesting conversation, which I always keep having with you and also with Kurush, I was having the other day, is that a lot of these small videos are going viral, where you guys are talking about an aspect of heritage or architecture or history or food history. So there is certainly a need where people want to go beyond what the mainstream is representing to them. They are interested in stories, in narratives, in stories of origin. Where is this food originating from? Where is this architecture coming from? How is this story being the dominant story in our culture? And I think if we are able to create a kind of a parallel network or a parallel setup where these stories can reach people, which not only in some sense demolish a very homogenizing or a mainstream kind of a false narrative, but also give people a trail, a source, a point in a direction that we can dig deeper and we can find actually these actual stories about our culture, and we can also experience them. And that's where a partnership or collaboration with tourism department or with Outlook Tourism or with people who are empowered, who have resources, and who can actually enable these stories to be discovered in real life by people. And I think then we can have a way forward.
Coming to you, Mr. Jagdish, I have, I need help. In the presentations that were made today, the entire emphasis on responsible tourism, that has been the key point of developing the idea of Kerala tourism. And this is something that is my constant bug. I keep on raising this, that all the places in outside of Kerala, or at least what I have seen in Kerala, excluding them, you go to any place which is thronged by tourists, foreign tourists or Indian tourists. These places are filthy. And I can give you examples of two places in Delhi. Of all the monuments visited in India, after the Taj, these are the two most visited sites. the Qutub Minar and the Red Fort. Both these monuments open to visitors at sunrise. But the sweeping and cleaning staff reports on duty at 9 o'clock. And the toilets are never clean. And both of them are World Heritage Sites. A foreign tourist, not belonging to the Buddhist circuit, anybody else not belonging to SARC or the Buddhist circuit, everybody else has to pay 600 rupees to enter the Red Fort and the Qutub. And I keep on getting into fight with the superintending archaeologist of Delhi. You are asking these people to pay you 600 rupees to enter. Why can't you give them a clean toilet? And I know the numbers are phenomenal. The numbers are phenomenal. More than 30, 40,000 people visit these monuments every day. But you need to have toilets to keep track of these many visitors. You don't have clean drinking water. And to see the Red Fort properly, you require 3 hours. Why can't you have a clean restaurant where you can sit down and have a cup of coffee? And the recent change of, corporate houses being asked to adopt monuments, they are not only looking after monuments, their personal ideologies are defining these monuments. So in the Red Fort, for example, you cannot buy a biryani. You cannot buy a kebab. You cannot buy a hamburger. Because the people who are paying some pittance to the government of India, they are vegetarians. So their food preferences are imposed on anybody visiting the Red Fort. They have also been handed over 4 other monuments recently. Now, I'm raising this because this is what is going to be the direction in which cultural policies on tourism are going to be increasingly shaped. Now, those who engage with the issues of culture and its inclusive nature, they will have to decide how are you going to overcome that, because this alone can seriously damage all your efforts at actually developing inclusive tourism. And I would like both of you to react to this. And how does one go about this? Is there a method? Can we do something?
Sir, yeah, the points raised by you is very, very interesting as well as very important. Actually, this shows how the deviations or diversions in cultural life is taking place in the modern era. Actually, not only it's a common problem where the tourists or crowds come, the cleanliness and the hygiene of the area is being affected. So enough measures should be taken to keep the places clean and hygiene. So in our destinations also, we are suffering such problems of cleanliness, because in places like Munnar, etc., a lot of people at a time come there, and we are not able to provide safe or clean environment to them because of lack of infrastructural facilities. However, we are tackling this problem by providing world-class toilets and a clean destination scheme. A scheme is there. Government is funding for clean destination, and Kudumbasri units are taking care of these cleanliness of the destinations. At the same time, we are planning for master plans for all these major destinations, and a carrying capacity study is proposed in all these areas where we can allow people in limited numbers so that the crowd can be avoided, and we can ensure the cleanliness over a period of time. That's actually what is we are planning. So, but as far as the corporatization of these destinations, we are not thinking about that. And these monuments or whatever places we have, the government intervention will only be there, and not any corporate or their habits or their tastes are not taking over these places. That is what we can assure at this point of time, sir.
No, that is a very welcome thing, because all over the country it is increasingly being accepted that the Kerala model is something that works. Now, if one goes into the detail that this is how at every step these issues have been implemented, maybe some states will learn from this. Instead of handing it over to corporate houses, to the state making an investment in tourism, because in a country as vast and as diverse as India, and given the fact that quite a lot of our corporate houses are not known for their acts of social responsibility, so I think, that if this is the model that has worked, that there is something to learn from it, and hopefully other states will learn from this, and eventually maybe the Archaeological Survey of India will also learn something from this. Yeah, Danish?
Yeah, I think if this is the way the policy is heading, then politicians and corporate greed will find opportunity in this also.
Yes.
And maybe they will give contracts outside of monuments,
Yes.
that you can set up clean toilets here,
Yes.
and restaurants with multi-cuisine,
Yes.
and storytellers. And after watching the monument, after visiting the monument, please come and visit here. Pay more, access a clean toilet, access a multi-cuisine,
Yes.
and we will tell you the real story of the monument. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we've run out of time now. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.